Today, I want to talk about a verse that has been a source of comfort, guidance, and challenge for countless believers. Matthew 6 verse 33. It reads, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." This verse that was spoken by Jesus during the Sermon on the Mount carries a profound principle. Prioritize God's kingdom and righteousness above everything else, and trust that your needs will be met. At first glance, this verse is simple, but what does it truly mean to seek first his kingdom? The kingdom of God isn't a physical place or a future event. It's a spiritual reality that begins within us. It begins in our hearts. It's about living a life surrendered to God's will. It's about aligning our hearts with God's purposes and priorities. Righteousness, on the other hand, isn't just about avoiding sin. It's about actively pursuing a life that reflects God's character, a life of integrity, kindness, compassion, and commitment to His truth in our daily lives. When we prioritize these two things, His kingdom and His righteousness, we're not neglecting our needs. Instead, we're trusting God to take care of them. Through entrusting our needs to God's capable hands, we're recognizing that true fulfillment comes not from material possessions or worldly success, but from a deep, abiding relationship with God. I remember a time when I was overwhelmed by uncertainty. I was worried about the future. I was consumed by questions like, how will I make it through? But in that season, I leaned on this verse, Matthew 6 verse 33. Instead of focusing on my worries, I shifted my attention to prayer, seeking God's direction, and serving others. Little by little, I saw how God provided in ways I couldn't have imagined. That experience taught me the power of placing my trust in Him. So, brethren, how can we live out Matthew 6 verse 33 in our daily lives? First, make a conscious decision to prioritize God's kingdom. Spend time in prayer, Bible study, and seeking His guidance in our decisions. For example, start each morning by asking God, how can I serve your purpose today? Second, trust God to provide for your needs. Let go of worry and anxiety. Trust that God understands your needs better than you do. Practice gratitude for what you have. Keep a journal and list 3 things each day that remind you of God's faithfulness. Third, live a life of righteousness. Choose to live according to God's standards, even when it's difficult. Be honest when it's easier to lie, show kindness even when it's hard, and extend compassion to those around you. Finally, I want you to know that seeking God's kingdom doesn't mean life will be free of challenges. We will still face trials, but with our focus on God, we find strength, peace, and hope. God doesn't promise a life without storms, but He does promise to guide us through them. Therefore, I invite you to take a step of faith. Reflect on one area in your life where you've been holding on to worry or control. Surrender it to God in prayer and trust Him to work it out for your good. Spend 5 extra minutes each morning asking God to align your priorities with His kingdom. Remember, when we embrace Matthew 6 verse 33, we open the door to a life of peace, joy, and true purpose. So, let's commit to seeking His kingdom first, trusting that as we do, everything else will fall into place. Thank you for watching. If this message inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you plan to seek God's kingdom first this week. And if you haven't already, subscribe to stay connected for more faith-filled encouragement. Let's grow together in pursuing God's purpose for our lives.